with Litecoin and the rest of the crypto space taking a turn downwards, it is increasing our probability that we're going to have that lower low that we were looking for in our big picture pattern. But that is not all bad news. We're seeing the same kinds of things in equities as well. Stocks have been nosediving. But of course, that means things are about to go on sale, and the big picture long-term pattern looks better than ever. So stay tuned to find out more details about that. To start off, we're going to look at our short-term picture. This is the 1 hour linear chart for Litecoin, and we had two different patterns that were competing. And as I mentioned, we have some more downside setup. Our red primary pattern is looking more and more likely as we go. We have a rally here starting from our bottom on January 22nd, and whether this is the bottom or that's the bottom doesn't really matter. It's a one, looks like an A wave up, B wave down, third wave up, most likely a C wave, and well, if we were going to have a fifth wave up to complete a leading diagonal, looks like we've kind of run out of space here. We've kind of gone past the end of the runway at this point. If I draw a line here, you can see that we crossed down to the bottom of our channel trend line. So it's looking less likely. And that means that we probably are going to have a lower low. In order for this green pattern to hold, we cannot break below the low of 96.61. That was the low that we hit earlier. And well, there is a chance that this was actually 5 up. As I mentioned, this is very non-standard looking. This fourth wave down looks very non-standard. The third wave didn't go high enough. So for all those reasons, I'm not convinced that the green pattern is going to stick around, and we're getting closer and closer and validating it as we speak. But as I mentioned, that is not bad news. Now, there's also more reason to think we have the lower low coming. This looks like a 5-wave setup down. I'm actually going to draw the Elliott wave, the fib extension tool here. So based on what we got here, depending on where you think the top is, you actually count this as a 1, a 2, and then third wave here, and then your fifth wave down would look like this. So if that's the case, we already have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave leading diagonal down. Maybe you already had it before. Regardless, we may see a small bounce this coming week before the actual final the crash down, the smackdown comes. If I had to make a projection on the linear chart, how low we would go in that case, if we see a turn back up, then let's assume a 61.8% retrace. We are projecting to at least $82 to $78, maybe down to 71. So we're going to see how those align with the big picture chart. This is, of course, the daily logarithmic chart, which is available in the description below. So be sure to check out that link down there if you'd like to follow along. Our lower target actually does have confluence here. This blue box falls around the $76 mark. The top of it does at least. I actually haven't changed anything on this big picture, at least in this view, because I haven't needed to. We haven't broken any key supports yet. And just to summarize, we had our big crash into the summer. That is what I'm considering a large A wave. We had a very corrective looking bounce. This is a classic A, B, C pattern. This looks more like a corrective bounce up than it does in Bitcoin or Ethereum. I'm actually going to make sure I get that nomenclature right. So that would be the C wave, the bigger B wave. And we are descending in what could be an impulse down or it could be an ending diagonal. The reason I may think it's an ending diagonal is because when you look at the internal structures, well, our first wave could be down here. Maybe it's a B, C down, a bounce, A, B, C down. And then maybe we are, we've already started our fifth wave down, or maybe it looks more like this. Regardless, it doesn't look like an impulsive pattern at all. Is this the first wave down? Is the first wave down there? Doesn't really make much difference. Either way, it's looks like a 3-wave pattern here, 3-wave pattern here, and presumably it could be, you know, maybe this is the A wave, the fifth wave down, B, and then we'll have a fifth wave to finish this off. A lot of different permutations, a lot of different ways to look at it. Look, considering where we are at the moment, if we project this down, as I mentioned, it would fall in this blue box. Minimum extension would be about $76. It could go down to $45, which we're going to look at in the big picture in just a second. If I had to take a guess that we have already started our fifth wave down, I'm actually going to take this Fibonacci retracement tool and start it right here where we may be having a bounce. Let's say we've already started our fifth wave down in ABC fashion. If that is the case, we have an A, B, C. Yeah, I mean, right around the top of that box is what we're looking at if that is the case. So I'm not going to beat the dead horse here with this. We're going to see what happens. Point is, it's looking more likely that there's going to be a bit more downside, which, well, from 115 to 74, it looks bad, but it's really not that much downside considering the big picture. As I mentioned before, our retrace, there's a strong resistance at $73. That would be the 61.8% retrace of what I'm calling potentially a third wave. I'm going to explain why this may or may not be a third wave in just a second, but there is strong confluence there. The 76.4% retrace of that bigger number does fall in the lower part of the box, but I think we've already got enough downside that I can't see us going too low into that box. The same thing with Bitcoin and Ethereum. I don't see that much downside coming. Those are actually completing what look like expanded fourth wave flats. If we are finished, or once we hit this box down here, we would hit this target here. And I'm actually going to recall this red because really these projections are calculated off of the red pattern. So assuming we hit the top of that box, our first wave up, subwave up should fall between 214 and 414. So that's a pretty good bounce just for the subwave one alone. And that would be basically from 76 all the way up to, again, 214 minimum, probably a 3x plus return minimum. See a second wave to stretch the rubber band, and then we'd be off to the races to the third of a third. So like I said, there's a small chance the green is going to hold. That means we will violently have a counter rally bounce, give that fifth wave. But as I mentioned, not much of a chance of that, and it will invalidate if we break the low that we've already hit. Now, longer term, this is what our history looks like. Litecoin's a little strange, kind of like Bitcoin and Ethereum, in that we could count this whole rally all the way up to December 2017 as a major wave one, and then a clear corrective pullback. I have two competing big picture patterns here. My primary says that, well, that the purple, that this pullback here in December 2018 was the actual complete second wave, that this is a first, a second, and a third. You know, you'll probably know if you've been following my channel, I'm a little concerned about this double bottom. You know, is this the actual bottom or is that the bottom? Is that a 1-2? I've got both alternate patterns on Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think the patterns fit better if we look at this as the actual wave 2 bottom. That's what the blue pattern is telling us. The square bracketed blue 2 says that this is an A, a B, and a C. There are other cryptos in which this was clearly a lower low, so there's no question on those. Therefore, I'm a little vague on that. If the actual bottom is back here, purple wave 2, then we have a 1, a 2, 3, and we're in the middle of a fourth wave. It would be a diagonal pattern, and diagonals are not as bullish of a setup as an impulse would be. So in that case, we'd be projecting to about maybe 542 to 715 max if we extend this thing out. Those would be your standard extension levels for a diagonal based on this 1-2 right here. Otherwise, the blue pattern is far more bullish in that this was actually the subwave 1. And what makes that pattern exciting is that once you have your larger degree 1-2, the square bracket 1, the square bracket 2, you'd expect your first wave to get between the 0.32 and the 0.61 extension, which is exactly what we hit. We hit the 0.61 extension in our rally top, May 2021, and we would presumably be falling in our second wave. Again, you can see the little blue 2 right there. If that's the case, we've got a nested 1-2, 1-2 setup. And potentially our first subwave 1-2 would be another nested 1-2. So just like in some of the other cryptos like Dash and I believe Stellar Lumen's EOS, we could have a 1-2, 1-2 major setup, which could get us some incredible rally. What do I mean by incredible? How high could we go? Well, if you hit the 0.618 for your first subwave right here, your second degree, I guess, your subwave 3, bigger subwave 3. So if that's the 1, that's the 2, our 3 would fall somewhere between the 1.0 and the 1.236 extensions, which are, well, astronomically high. Let's keep this thing conservative. We could have something get all the way up to the 2,600 range from where we are. So I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse. If we project this as a 1-2, well, we have some confluence up there. 1.0 is about 1205. There's a confluence at 2,300. So there's a lot of reason to be excited in Litecoin for the long-term pattern. Even if we fall the diagonal, 542 could be the ultimate top. We're going to have to see where we end up with that. The good thing is I don't think we're going to have too much trouble figuring out where it's going to go, because if we're going to follow that bigger pattern, the more bullish pattern, the 1-2 being back here, we should blast right through those resistances without too much of a pause. If we start hesitating and pull back, that could be an indication that we have a leading diagonal set up here. And we'd see similar action in Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of the other older cryptos in which we'd see a lot of bearish action. So that is the excitement. Litecoin looks good. We have a great setup. If we had to project from where we are right now, we're sitting at 115-ish, 115 to 1205. That is a 10x, 11x return. If we get all the way to that 2,000 plus number, could be a 20x return plus. So again, reasons to be optimistic, especially for a long-term investor. And that is why a near-term crash a little bit lower could hurt, could be a 50% crash. But it'd be a great buying opportunity to look like nothing in the long term. Other than that, though, get ready to buy. Again, good to be greedy when others are fearful. And here's another tip I keep harping on: diversify. If you love Litecoin, buy a bunch of cryptos, buy a bunch of altcoins. A lot of these have incredible setups. Some have a more confident setup than others. A lot of cryptos have a much cleaner setup than Litecoin too. So you never know which one's going to outperform, and you don't know which one could go kaput and kill you. So don't get obsessed with one. Buy a bunch, buy 7 or 8. I'm going to have a lot of videos comparing the risk, reward, the upside, all that stuff for all the cryptos that I'm analyzing. So subscribe, that way you don't miss it. And if you enjoyed my content today, don't forget to give me a like. Till next time, thank you for watching and happy trading.